looks awful, we'll cut at that point, I think.
You can do it.
Don't laugh. Boom. Nice.
Oh. No, you keep your childhood sweetheart. Don't be a knob. Filming that video, the music video. Yeah. I knew you were modelling yourself on that.
Okay, so tell me about the your first Henlle Classic.
Well, I was not a big name in the scene, as you know, back then, and really, hadn't had the experience. Was not playing well, and ultimately it was just a massive shock. Was very surprised to get it. Then I thought, well, I'm in this position, in this situation, I've got to play up to it. And not only was I picked, also I was chosen as captain, and obviously massive honour, and really just very nervous and actually scared. I had some great golfers underneath me, Guy Stringer, great golfer, all really good in their own right, and I was there chosen to lead these guys out there in what is arguably the world's biggest competition. There's no doubt about it. It was daunting. It was scary, but you've got to approach it like any other game. Just keep calm, and I feel that's what I did. Or at least I hope that's what I did.
Knowing the reputations of people like Guy Stringer, Will Naylor, and the accolades that they've collected over their careers. Knowing the reputations of people like Guy Stringer, Will Naylor, the accolades they've collected over their careers, you obviously came in there, you'd won some tournaments, but nothing on the scale of what they'd done. How did you put yourself in the position of leader?
Difficult question. I think they were shocked as much as I was, but I think I just had to lay my cards on the table and say, look, this is it, and I just had to bring out those leadership qualities which obviously they picked me for. And I think they did come out from day one, and I think they did look up to me and respect me as their leader. Not necessarily for, I don't think I was necessarily picked for the golf, but that then did come through as a proof during the competition. But for my sort of natural leadership, and I don't think it's anything specifically that I do, but I think it's just maybe the aura that I give off.
Too much.
Yeah, recording.
Okay. So obviously the first year was a difficult year for you, but you and your team came through and won. The second year is where you really established your reputation as one of the great golf captains. Talk me through how your team felt when you were 2-0 down.
Well, obviously we were devastated. We obviously would be there to win, and we weren't winning. We saw the last day, end of the first day. And I just gathered them round. I said, we had a chat, and I won't go into what was said. But it was, and I think, well, what was said, I think worked. Obviously, what was said on the day, we'd like to keep to ourselves, and that's a personal matter. But it worked, I think. And obviously we came back, bounced back, and obviously won that competition. So.
People have talked about that since. People who were in the changing room, they've talked about that since as one of the most emotional occasions of their careers. Do you feel that is a burden on yourself, that you have to produce that every year, or how do you keep people going?
No, I mean since then we've performed. You know, we've had 5 successive wins on the trot, and each situation you act differently. You know, and there's no set uniform way of giving a speech or motivating your players. So no, I mean there's no, I don't have to give a speech like I did then. But if the time came, I had to, and I think I've got it to do it if required.
What are your thoughts on the pairings? Obviously, you've got some different personalities in that team. Yeah. Who do you feel works best together? Are there any people you don't put together? Or?
Yeah, I mean, there's some strong characters. We've got some great golfers, obviously. I think there are the more jokier players, and obviously you've got to try and keep them apart. But players do complement each other. Myself and Stringer don't really tend to play that well together. I think history has dictated that. I think. Any
reason for that? What's the?
Again, I don't really go into it too much. But there's better pairings. Historically, myself and Thompson Jones have always played pretty well. Probably the two of the weaker players in our team, but complement each other's game. And obviously the likes of Naylor. I mean, he can play with anyone. He'll always drag them through. Amazing player, and then obviously will be a big loss this year. Him and his brother.
Yeah, well, coming on to that, thinking back to your first Henlle Classic, obviously you've got a new challenge this year. 2 new players, the first time it's happened for a while. Yeah. 2 debutants in the competition. What are you going to say to them to help them cope with the pressure?
Well, I mean, it's a big event. That's the big thing, and obviously they'll be very nervous coming into it. But also, myself and experienced, older veterans of the tournament. I think we'll just have a chat with them, and make ourselves very approachable. If there's anything you want to talk about, then do come up and talk. But I think the main thing is obviously, it's a big tournament. They know that, but the approach, you've got to practice weeks in, weeks out, months in, months out, coming up to the tournament. But ultimately, I think you just got to treat it like any other game, and that's the key. And I think that's been the key to our success, is that. We try to sort of separate ourselves from the melee going out in the crowd, obviously, and the media frenzy as well prior to the tournament. We tried to step back from that and just keep ourselves calm, collected, focused about the game in each hole. But ultimately, it's just another golf tournament, and try and put the sort of the frenzy of it and the magnitude of it at the back of your mind, and I'll just be passing that on to them, I think.
And what are your thoughts? I mean, it's a huge loss. Will Naylor, 3 Grand Slams to his name in 5 years. Rob Naylor, I think, has 1. Yeah. There's a lot of points you're losing there. Yeah,
I mean, they're obviously two fantastic players, and have proven year in year out for us. But we're strong. We've got strength and depth, I think, as we've proven with obviously Tom Bryden and Doug coming along. Again, great players in their own right. They're new to the tournament, which is obviously a bit of a disadvantage. But I think we've still got the ability to do it, and the characters to do it. The Henlle Classic isn't just about pure golf. There's a lot of emotion involved, and it's in the strength of characters. I think we'll prefer.
There's always a massive amount of fascination around the Henlle Classic because we don't see much of the players for the rest of the year. It's the only time that people get access to these stars of the game. Yeah. And a lot of the, until people actually step onto the course, a lot of it happens behind closed doors. I want you, if you can, 2010, you're in the changing room, 10 minutes before the first tee off. Obviously, you can hear the crowds outside. Often there's a lot of chanting, there's a lot of noise around the first tee. Just talk me through it. What's going on? Who's doing what? What are you doing? How do you get yourself ready? How do you get the team ready?
Well, obviously, being captain, this is one of the most important times. And you can hear the crowds outside. It's pretty daunting, and especially for the new guys coming in. This will be something. This is a key time for them. You really can get the nerves going. But basically, I'll sit the lads down and say, and try and just block that out. Try and sort of block out the magnitude of it out. it's just another game. And tell them, focus each hole, each stroke, and just focus on the intricacies of the game as opposed to just the whole big event as one thing. Ultimately, we are there as a team. We'll be supporting each other as a team, but it comes down to man against man ultimately, and who will triumph. It's all about the strokes, each stroke, and each hole, and try and focus on that and try and block out the magnitude of the turnout, basically. But in terms of actual speeches, just keep that to ourselves. I think.